Chapter 6066. Nanako also agreed with Charlie's point of view and said, "If it hadn't been for her, I might not have had the chance to achieve enlightenment." Saying that, she said to him, "Charlie, do you want to meet Master Jingqing? Maybe he can give you some inspiration." Charlie shook his head. "My situation is special, so I'd better try not to meet him." After saying that, Charlie looked at the woman's back, suddenly became more discerning, and immediately sensed it with his spiritual energy. He didn't doubt this woman in his heart. He used his spiritual energy to sense her. And it was entirely because he thought of that scholar from the warrior's den. He felt that all the coincidences in this world may not be coincidences. Therefore, he thought about using spiritual energy to confirm if the other party was an ordinary person who didn't understand martial arts, let alone spiritual energy, it would prove that he was worrying too much. After sensing it, he discovered that this woman was indeed neither a warrior nor a monk, which made him completely relieved. The two pushed the door and got out of the car. When they walked to the elevator hall normally, the woman happened to be waiting here. When the two arrived at the elevator hall, one of the elevators just opened. The woman walked straight in, turned around after swiping her card, and saw Nanako and Charlie following her. She was suddenly surprised and said, "Ah, it's you." Nanako nodded with a smile and said, "What a coincidence. You just got off work?" "No," the woman said with a smile. "I am just a housewife. There is no easy way to go to work. I just came back from having dinner at my best friend's house." After saying that, she looked curiously at Charlie and asked Nanako, "Is this your boyfriend?" Nanako blushed slightly, but still shook her head subconsciously and said, "He is my friend, and he happens to live in the same community. I took his car." She didn't dare to acquiesce or admit that Charlie was her boyfriend in front of her neighbors. After all, Charlie himself was living in Thompson. Wouldn't it be embarrassing if they met him and Claire again someday? After hearing this, the woman nodded and asked Charlie, "This gentleman also lives in this building?" Charlie shook his head and said, "I live in another building." After saying that, he pressed the button on the elevator. The woman nodded slightly and said with a smile, "I thought you were a couple. You seem to be a perfect match." Nanako said shyly, No, we are just ordinary friends." The woman nodded and said no more. The elevator quickly reached the first floor, and Charlie said goodbye to the two of them, got out of the elevator, and walked back to the villa area. At this moment, he never dreamed that the woman who was in the same elevator with him just now was his biological mother's subordinate. And the reason why she came back before him was because everything was planned. Margaret was worried that Charlie would think too much, and deliberately asked her to find an opportunity to appear in front of him, so that Charlie could confirm that she was just an ordinary person who did not understand martial arts and spiritual energy. The reason why they have to calculate the time to let this woman enter the basement first is to further reduce the possibility of being suspected. After all, people are subjective animals. If a person follows you to the same place, someone who is interested will think that you are being followed. But the opposite is different, and the level of suspicion is greatly reduced. Margaret intervened in Nanako's enlightenment, in order to prevent Charlie from noticing anything unusual. She had to dispel all of Charlie's doubts. Otherwise, with Charlie's character, he would definitely get to the bottom of it before giving up. A few minutes later, Charlie returned to Thompson's villa area. In the villa at this time, his in-laws were watching TV in the living room on the first floor.